I have the honor now to introduce our keynote speaker this morning. You know, during the past, 16 years anyway, a lot of EBBF efforts, both in research and in our work with ISEC and elsewhere, has been on corporate responsibility and sustainability. In fact, and I think we do need to recognize that our real interest in this area was triggered when ISEC asked us on the occasion of the General Theme Conference in Bern, it was 11 years ago I think, to take a lead role in some of the workshops that lasted over a 9-day period. It was a very intensive workshop, but it was the excuse for us to begin articulating our own values as they relate to corporate responsibility and sustainability. So I use this as an introduction to our next speaker, who is Ernst Ligteringen, who is the Chief Executive of the Global Reporting Initiative. And it's particularly timely that we hear from the real source. Ernst's real objective, as I understand it, as Chief Executive, is to make sustainability reporting as visible and as important and significant as financial reporting. So we're going to listen now to how that's going to be done. Ernst, we're really privileged to have you with us and look forward to your words of wisdom.
If technology works and my mic is on, can you hear me in the back?
Yep.
I know my voice doesn't always carry loud. If at a certain moment you can't hear me, then please this way. Yesterday Augusto was talking about a hard act to follow. Well, Isaac and Lucy are a hard act to follow. I don't think mine will be as cool, but certainly also an important topic. By the way, Lucy, you're absolutely right about Colombia. Talking about sustainability reporting takes you around the world, makes you meet great and surprising people. 2 weeks ago I met Gabriel Garcia Marquez, great author, Colombian. I read his first book, 100 Years of Solitude, and I was a young boy. 19 or so I was, many years ago. And I thought, whoa, this man has a lot of fantasy. A few years later I had the fortune to marry a Colombian. Still. I went to Colombia and I thought, hey, he's just been writing about his country. Colombia is the most fantastic country. It's full of problems. It scores highest on the World Happiness Index. I'm still trying to figure out how you connect it. It's a country full of people with a positive spirit. It's caught in a tangle of problems with many international ramifications. Curiously, ISEC has a high membership there. Also the interest in sustainability reporting is picking up very strongly. I'll come back to that. It's really a great honor, pleasure to be here with you. And yesterday I was sitting in the back and listening to Augusto and listening also to your questions. I thought, well, this is a different audience from where I usually speak. Usually I have to try and make the connection from the starting point of the audience who I'm talking to, and that is value. How much does this mean? What can I earn with this? And is this really true stuff? And you were talking values. I'm trying usually to go from value to values. You're talking values. This was the most interesting. And sustainability reporting really connects both. I'll be talking about, I'm trying to explain to you what sustainability reporting is doing, where I think it's going, but particularly how it is a very practical way of getting a handle on some enormous challenges that we have in front of us. I will be talking about some of these challenges in the beginning. I'll point to a few drivers, mainly to say this world is going to change and the logic of the past won't apply to the future. The intent of the story is not to say the sky is falling. Because yes, there are solutions. There are many solutions, and again Augusto pointed to a few marvelous technologies that we could use. The big question is often, are we going to use it? How are we going to use it? With what intent? And all of these issues, all of these questions, we need answers to. I'll move to this side too. So let's start with looking at what are some of these issues. Well, over the last few months, there were a few headlines in the press that really surprised me. One of these was this. There was a headline that said in the beginning of this summer in the Northern Hemisphere that there was this year a 50% chance that the polar ice cap, North Pole, would melt completely. It didn't quite happen that way. But there are some enormously important or frightening changes. Currently, the North Pole counts for about 4.25 million square kilometers of ice cap. That is down from 8.2 million square kilometers in 1978, so it is halved since then. As the winters cool, ice freezes back, it grows, but it isn't the same kind of ice anymore. First year ice is very brittle, it's very thin, much more vulnerable again in the next year. This has its advantages. You can now navigate around the North Pole most of the time during the summer. And some people say, well, maybe you don't need the Panama Canal after all, which they want to invest in heavily and go around. Yeah, there are some advantages to climate change. But there's a scary question. What if it disappears completely? What happens to sea currents when 4.28 million square kilometers that currently are still covered with ice are receiving direct sunlight? Nobody quite knows. Other headlines. We're very smart. We have all kind of ways of measuring economic impact. We have predictions to tenth of a percentage of what share prices will do and how many economic indicators will vary. But if I go back a year and a bit ago, nobody was quite predicting that we would be entering a major crisis in terms of food prices. Food prices shut up. And not just led it to Italians complaining about the price of pasta, which they did, and later about the pizza as well. It led millions and millions and millions of people to the brink of starvation. It led the World Food Programme and the World Bank to ask for millions and millions of dollars, euros more to just help people to survive. Millions of dollars which did not come as quickly as the millions that came there now to help ARG to survive. These are some of these changes which happened very suddenly. This news that surprised me, and it indicates that we live in a world that can surprise us, and a world that is really, really, really changing. Fundamental change. Since the Second World War, the world population has tripled. Never in the history of humanity have we seen such growth. And it won't stop. It won't stop from one day to the other. You can't now say, whoop, this is a problem. Over the next 40 years, we will go to 9 billion people. That in itself will be an enormous challenge, and a challenge that will change the way the world that we know. But the problem is greater, and again I was pointed to some of this yesterday. Most of these people, well over 80%, live in developing countries. Most of them have very justifiable reasons to aspire to a better quality of life. And they're not immediately talking about the 2 cars in their garages. They're talking about access to water, food security, and then, if you can, electricity. Mobility is a big issue. But when you have electricity, by the way, you'd like a fridge. Go a bit further, air conditioning is sometimes nice. When you're talking about mobility, yes, a motorcycle helps a lot. First a bike, then a motorcycle. Tata is now putting a car on the market for $2,000. Their intended market? These millions and millions and millions of people who go with their whole family on a motorbike. Small kid on the front, a wife and 3 children on the back.